Right now, as you are watching this, wet snow is falling on tulips in Fort Collins, Colorado. Tornadoes are threatening millions of people from Texas to Tennessee. Flash flood watches are posted across Kentucky and Ohio, and in Alabama, the National Weather Service has just issued an enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5, for severe weather tonight. One storm system, 4 completely different disasters, and none of them are done yet. This week just took a serious turn, and if you live anywhere in the central or eastern United States, you need to stop what you're doing and pay attention right now. Welcome back to Sky Alert. It is Wednesday, May 6th, 2026, and we have a lot to unpack. This week started with severe storms tearing through Arkansas and Texas, and instead of things calming down, the system has actually escalated and expanded. We are not at the end of this story. We are right in the middle of it. What I want to do today is walk you through every single piece of this. The tornado threat that is developing right now across Alabama and Mississippi, the historic late-season snowstorm burying Colorado as we speak, the flooding threat creeping into the Ohio Valley, and what you need to know to keep yourself and your family safe through Wednesday night and into Thursday. Let's get into it. Let's start by putting this week in context, because what we are seeing right now is not a single storm. It is a multi-day, multi-hazard outbreak that has been grinding through the central United States since the beginning of the week, and it is still not finished. The Storm Prediction Center and the National Weather Service have been tracking the system carefully, and as of today, the message from the National Weather Service is crystal clear. Scattered strong to severe thunderstorms are expected Wednesday afternoon and evening across portions of Texas into the lower Mississippi and Tennessee valleys and the southern Appalachians. Damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes will all be possible. This is not a marginal, low-confidence event. This is a confirmed, active, severe weather situation that is evolving by the hour. Yesterday, on Tuesday, the main threat was centered over Arkansas. Widely scattered severe storms were firing from northeast Texas through western Tennessee with large hail, damaging winds, and a tornado threat in play. The kinematic environment, meaning the wind shear structure in the atmosphere, was running around 60 knots of bulk shear. That is absolutely sufficient for organized, rotating supercell thunderstorms. Any storm that matured in that environment was capable of all hazards. And now today, Wednesday, the cold front has advanced eastward, the moist air has deepened, and the threat has shifted and intensified across new territory. Here's where things took a serious turn, and this is the headline for today. The National Weather Service has issued an enhanced risk that is a level 3 out of 5 for severe weather beginning this evening, Wednesday, May 6th, and running through 2 a.m. on Thursday, May 7th. The enhanced risk covers a significant portion of Alabama and stretches into neighboring portions of Mississippi and Tennessee. This is not a slight risk. This is not a marginal risk. An enhanced risk means meteorologists are confident that severe weather will occur, and it will be organized and potentially significant. The threat window for the most dangerous conditions runs from 6 p.m. Wednesday evening through 2 a.m. Thursday morning. Think about that timing for a second. These are going to be nighttime storms. These are going to be storms that arrive after dark, when families are home, when children are going to sleep, when most people naturally let their guard down because they figure the worst of the day is over. I want to be very clear about something. Nighttime severe weather is statistically more deadly than daytime severe weather. The reason is simple. You cannot see the storm coming. You do not have the visual warning that daylight provides. Your phone needs to be your eyes after dark. The threats that the National Weather Service has specifically called out for tonight include tornadoes, damaging winds with gusts up to 60 miles per hour, and large hail up to quarter size. But I want to emphasize something. The hail and wind numbers represent the baseline expectation. If a sustained, organized supercell manages to develop ahead of the main line, which is absolutely possible given the atmospheric setup, the tornado and hail threat upgrades significantly. This is the exact scenario meteorologists are watching for. The Storm Prediction Center noted that any semi-discrete supercells in this environment could pose a risk for large to very large hail, and the tornado risk, particularly from central Arkansas into western Tennessee and now pushing into Alabama, is real and deserves your full respect. For those of you in the Tuscaloosa area, the Birmingham area, Huntsville, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, and the broader Tennessee Valley corridor, tonight is the night you need to be absolutely prepared. Know where your shelter is. If you are in a mobile home or a manufactured structure of any kind, tonight is not the night to be in it. You need to be in a sturdy, permanent structure. If you do not have access to one, reach out to your local emergency management office or your community storm shelter before this evening. Let me spend some time on tornadoes specifically, because it is the threat that people fear most and also the threat that is most misunderstood. The tornado risk tonight across Alabama and Mississippi exists because of a specific combination of atmospheric ingredients that are coming together in this region. We have strong deep layer shear That is the change in wind speed and direction from the surface up through the higher levels of the atmosphere. We have 0.1 kilometer storm relative helicity that is increasing during the afternoon and evening hours, exceeding 250 meters squared per second squared in some areas. What that means in plain language is that the lowest portion of the atmosphere is spinning. It has rotation built into it. And when a thunderstorm updraft taps into that spinning boundary layer air, it can stretch it vertically and produce a tornado. Now, I want to be honest with you about the uncertainty in this forecast. Earlier in the week, there was notable uncertainty about storm coverage and mode, meaning whether we would see organized, discrete supercells or more linear bowing line structure. That uncertainty has not completely disappeared. The models are still showing some variation. If the dominant storm mode ends up being a bowing linear system, what meteorologists call an MCS or a QLCS, then the damaging wind threat becomes the primary risk, and the tornado probability decreases slightly. But if storms can stay discrete and organized, even for a few hours before consolidating into a line, that is when the tornado threat is at its highest and most dangerous. The Storm Prediction Center was explicit. A strong tornado is possible with a sustained, discrete supercell. What this means for you is simple. You should not be playing odds tonight. You should not be saying, well, the models show it might stay linear, so maybe I don't need to worry. The time to decide where your shelter is right now, not at 11 p.m., when your phone is screaming at you and the power is flickering. Make that decision now, in daylight, with a clear head. While tornadoes get all the attention, the hail and wind threats from this system are actually going to impact a much wider area and will affect significantly more people. Let's talk about hail first. Going back to yesterday's setup, which was producing the storms that seeded this entire system, the Storm Prediction Center specifically noted that large to very large hail, meaning 2 inches or greater in diameter, was possible during the early stages of each storm's convective cycle. That is baseball-sized hail. For context, baseball-sized hail falls at roughly 100 miles per hour. It does not bounce. It does not roll off. It impacts with the kind of force that can shatter a car windshield instantly, punch through vinyl siding, strip shingles off a roof in seconds, and cause serious injury to anyone caught outside. Today and tonight, as the system continues eastward into the deep south and southern Appalachians, the hail threat continues. The atmosphere has steepening mid-level lapse rates. That means temperature is dropping rapidly with altitude, which helps power updrafts. Stronger updrafts mean larger hailstones can be suspended and grown within the storm before falling. The elongated hodograph structure in the wind profile means that supercells can maintain their organized structure for extended periods, giving hailstones more time to grow. The wind threat is just as serious and covers an even larger geographic footprint. Once individual storms start consolidating into a linear system, which models suggest will happen during the evening hours, that line is capable of producing widespread straight-line wind gusts. The National Weather Service has specifically mentioned damaging winds with gusts up to 60 miles per hour across the enhanced risk area. But during the most intense squall line passages, isolated gusts can significantly exceed that. 60 miles per hour is enough to snap power poles, down large trees across roads and onto homes, overturn light vehicles, and cause structural damage to buildings. And unlike a tornado, which affects a corridor that may be a few hundred yards wide, a damaging wind event from a squall line can stretch across an area hundreds of miles wide. The power outage potential from tonight's storms is very significant, particularly across Alabama and Mississippi. I cannot do a complete briefing on this week's storm system without spending serious time on flooding, because it is the threat that has the highest probability of killing someone tonight and tomorrow. The Ohio Valley, specifically Kentucky, Indiana, and southern Ohio, is already under a marginal risk for excessive rainfall running from today through tomorrow morning. This is not a coincidence. The broader storm system is not just producing severe weather, it is also pulling up an enormous amount of tropical moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, and that moisture has to go somewhere. It falls as rain, and in some areas it falls as a lot of rain very quickly. The specific concern in the Tennessee Valley and southern Appalachians is what meteorologists call training storms. When storms move in the same direction as the mid-level wind flow, and those storms keep developing along the same line, they can pass over the exact same geographic area repeatedly. Each storm adds more rain on top of what the previous storm deposited. The ground becomes saturated, streams rise, creeks overflow, roads flood. And in mountainous terrain where the land is steep and water flows quickly downhill into narrow valleys, flash flooding can be catastrophic. AccuWeather's forecast specifically notes that Wednesday's threats include damaging winds, hail, flash flooding, and tornadoes in the strongest storms. And by Thursday, as the system continues its eastward push from southern Louisiana towards central and northeastern North Carolina, the main threats will be strong wind gusts and torrential downpours. The flooding risk does not end when the severe weather risk ends. In fact, some of the most dangerous flooding occurs in the aftermath of the main convective event, as rivers and streams are still rising hours after the rain has stopped. The message for flooding is the same as it always is, but it deserves repetition every single time because people continue to die every year making the same preventable mistake. Do not drive through flooded roads. I do not care how shallow the water looks. I do not care if you have a large truck or an SUV. Moving water just 2 feet deep can sweep any vehicle off a road. The road surface may not even be there anymore beneath that water. Turning around is not defeat. Turning around is the decision that keeps you alive. Now I need to take you to a completely different story unfolding right now on the western side of this same storm system, because this is one of the most remarkable weather events Colorado has seen in years. While the southeast is battling tornadoes and flooding, Colorado and Wyoming are being buried under potentially a foot or more of heavy, wet May snow. And this is not just an inconvenient spring snowfall. This could be the biggest snowfall Denver has seen all year. Here is the context that makes this particularly extraordinary. Colorado just came off what a National Weather Service meteorologist in Denver described as their driest winter on record. Nearly 60% of Colorado is currently in extreme or exceptional drought. The snowpack across much of the American West has been at historically low levels all season, and now in May, the snow they desperately needed all winter is finally arriving, all at once, in the wrong month, when the trees have already leafed out and the ground has already thawed. The Washington Post put it plainly this morning. This could be Denver's biggest May snowfall in a decade or two. The specific numbers are staggering for this time of year. Across the northern and central mountains, including the popular resort areas of Breckenridge, Rocky Mountain National Park, and Vail Pass, widespread totals of 8 to 12 inches are expected, with isolated higher terrain locations potentially seeing up to 30 inches. The Northern Front Range, areas like Estes Park, Nederland, Cameron Pass, and Red Feather Lakes, is looking at 10 to 24 inches, with isolated amounts reaching 30 inches in the highest elevations of Boulder and Larimer counties. Even Denver itself is expected to see 5 to 8 inches through Wednesday, with the snow continuing into Wednesday morning. Wind gusts up to 45 miles per hour will combine with the falling snow to produce whiteout conditions on mountain passes. What makes the snow uniquely dangerous is not just the amount, but the type. May snow in Colorado is notorious for being extremely heavy and wet, with high water content. This is what meteorologists call high-density snow. It is dense, it is sticky, and it is devastating to trees that have already leafed out and are carrying a full canopy of spring foliage. A National Weather Service meteorologist warned specifically that they expect a lot of broken branches this week because the wet snow will simply add too much weight for leafed-out trees to handle. Xcel Energy has already positioned additional crews on standby to respond to power outages. But widespread power outages are likely regardless. The travel impacts are already being felt. I-70 through the mountains is under chain controls with possible multi-hour closures today and tonight. Glenwood Canyon is facing intermittent closures. I-25 from Denver toward Colorado Springs is dealing with slick conditions, particularly around Monument Hill. And I-80 through Wyoming between Cheyenne and Laramie is expected to face light and high-profile vehicle restrictions, with a full closure possible. If you are planning to drive on any mountain highway in Colorado or Wyoming today or tonight, you need to reconsider that plan entirely. These are not conditions where careful driving will be sufficient. These are conditions where roads may simply be closed. One more thing worth noting about this snowstorm. Denver's average last snowfall date is around April 28th. The last time Denver recorded double-digit May snowfall was May 25th and 26th of 1950, when 7 inches fell. If current forecasts verify, this week's storm could challenge records going back generations. And the irony is not lost on anyone in Colorado that, after a winter of drought, this is the snow they finally got. But it is arriving in May when it causes damage rather than December when it could have filled reservoirs. And restored snowpack. It will help the drought situation somewhat, but as the NWS meteorologist noted, it is not a drought buster by any means. Before we wrap up, I want to zoom out and put this week in the context of 2026 as a whole, because this is not happening in isolation. According to data tracking this season, the week of April 23rd to 29th alone generated nearly 1,500 severe weather warnings across Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Indiana in a single week. Last week saw an EF3 tornado tear through Mineral Wells, Texas. Hail up to 4. 5 inches in diameter was reported in Johnson County, Texas. An EF3 tornado hit portions of Kankakee, Illinois, with potentially record-breaking hail of 5 to 6 inches. A violent EF4 tornado struck Enid, Oklahoma, with winds estimated at 170 to 175 miles per hour, the strongest U.S. tornado since June 2025. Deadly tornadoes struck North Texas, killing at least 2 people. The 2026 season was forecast at the start of the year to produce between 1,050 and 1,250 tornadoes nationally, near the historical average. But AccuWeather specifically warned at the start of the season that even a near normal tornado count does not mean a quiet season, and that 2026 would favor an increased likelihood of severe thunderstorms producing damaging winds and heavy downpours. That forecast is verifying almost exactly as predicted. This week is a continuation of what has been a consistently active and violent severe weather pattern throughout the spring, and with the pattern showing continued upper troughing east of the Rockies and periodic surges of Gulf moisture northward. This is not the last severe weather outbreak we will be tracking this season. Let me close with the most important section of this entire video: what you need to do right now if you are in any of the affected regions. For everyone in the enhanced risk zone across Alabama, Mississippi, and Tennessee, tonight is your highest priority. Make sure your phone has emergency weather alerts enabled. If you have a weather radio, make sure it is on and the alarm is active. Identify your shelter location right now. If it is a basement, clear a path to it. If it is an interior room, move a few pillows, blankets, and your phone charger there now, so you're not scrambling in the dark at midnight. If you have elderly neighbors or family members nearby, check on them before this evening and make sure they have a plan. For people in the broader severe weather corridor from Texas through the Carolinas over the next 48 hours, this system is not done. AccuWeather confirmed that on Thursday, the storm shifts towards southern Louisiana, central North Carolina, and the Atlantic coast. Keep monitoring your local forecast and stay flexible with any outdoor plans through the end of the week. For Colorado and Wyoming travelers, do not drive in the mountains today or tonight. Full stop. If you have a trip planned that involves I-70, I-80, or any mountain passes, delay it until Thursday at the earliest, when conditions are expected to improve. Do not treat this like a regular spring snowstorm. Treat it like a January blizzard, because in terms of road impacts and travel hazards, that is exactly what it is. For everyone watching Sky Alert, keep your notifications on. This system is actively evolving, and the forecast will be updated throughout the day and tonight. Stay connected to your local National Weather Service office, keep Sky Alert in your feed for updates, and most importantly, take shelter if warnings are issued for your area without hesitation. This week's storms took a serious turn. Stay informed, stay safe, and we will see you in the next one.